By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what one tiny spice does to your body over 7 straight days. Some of it you'll notice almost right away. Some of it takes time to build in the background. And there's one effect near the end of this video, backed by real laboratory research, that surprised the scientists studying it. Stick around for that one. Because the spice we're talking about isn't rare. It isn't expensive. It's probably sitting quietly in your kitchen cabinet right now. A single clove, chewed once a day, for 7 days straight. Here's what actually happens. The secret lies in a natural compound called eugenol. This is the molecule that made researchers pay attention to cloves. In fact, dentists have used clove oil for decades, because eugenol produces a mild numbing effect. Many people know this from experience. Place clove near an irritated tooth, and the discomfort often eases surprisingly quickly. The interesting part? Eugenol behaves surprisingly similarly to compounds used in dental numbing products, only it doesn't stop in the mouth. This compound travels throughout the body. And that's where things become interesting, starting with something almost every joint in your body deals with. Researchers have spent years studying inflammation because it sits behind so many modern health problems. Arthritis-related discomfort, swelling, stiffness, and even slow recovery after activity. Laboratory studies suggest compounds in cloves may help calm inflammatory pathways. Some researchers have even compared these mechanisms with pathways targeted by common anti-inflammatory medications. That doesn't mean cloves replace medication. They don't. But it does help explain why cloves have appeared in traditional health practices for centuries. And inflammation isn't the only system these compounds seem to influence. Researchers discovered that cloves don't just interact with human cells. They also interact with microbes. Studies have explored their effects against certain bacteria, certain fungi, certain viruses, and even some parasites in laboratory settings. Some of those studies involved strains that researchers consider increasingly difficult to manage using conventional antibiotics. One reason may involve something called a biofilm. Think of biofilms as microscopic bunkers built by bacteria, protective shields, tiny cities. Once those protective layers form, removing microbes becomes much harder. Some laboratory studies suggest clove compounds may help weaken these protective barriers, making microbes more vulnerable to the body's own defenses. Another interesting detail caught researchers' attention. Unlike broad-spectrum antibiotics, researchers are also interested in how certain plant compounds interact differently with microbes and the surrounding environment. That's an area of research that continues to evolve. But it may help explain why cloves have attracted scientific interest for so long across multiple cultures. Researchers discovered a second possible mechanism. Some studies suggest eugenol may interfere with how certain microbes generate energy. Imagine shutting down the power stations inside a city. No energy, no growth, no reproduction. Most of this evidence comes from laboratory studies rather than human studies. But the mechanisms are fascinating. And they may help explain why cloves continue to attract scientific attention today. Millions of people struggle with blood sugar regulation. Some early studies suggest compounds in cloves may improve insulin sensitivity. Think of insulin as a key. Its job is to unlock the doors to your cells. Sometimes those locks stop responding properly. Researchers call this insulin resistance. Some compounds in cloves appear to help those locks respond more efficiently. Not dramatically, not overnight, but enough for scientists to continue exploring the connection, which brings us to the section I mentioned earlier, cancer research. This section requires an important disclaimer. Researchers have investigated cloves in laboratory cancer studies. Some studies observed slower growth in certain cancer cells. Others showed effects in animal models. Here's the important distinction. There are currently no human clinical trials proving cloves treat cancer. Science moves carefully, as it should. Still, the findings were interesting enough for researchers to continue studying these compounds. And that's exactly the kind of result that keeps a tiny kitchen spice on the radar of researchers in the first place. Researchers have also investigated cloves for their antioxidant properties. Scientists use something called an ORAC score to estimate antioxidant capacity, and cloves rank extraordinarily high on that scale. In fact, Gram for gram, cloves score higher than many foods famous for antioxidants, including blueberries. Some studies suggest cloves may support the liver's natural detoxification systems. Researchers have also explored how cloves may influence platelet activity and circulation. Platelets play an important role in how the body forms clots, which is one reason scientists continue studying these mechanisms carefully. Cloves may also have mild blood-thinning properties. That means anyone taking blood-thinning medication should speak with their healthcare professional before consuming large amounts regularly. The story doesn't stop there. Cloves appear to stimulate digestive enzymes, which may help explain why many people report less bloating and less gas after meals. Traditional health practices have also used cloves to support respiratory comfort and reduce mucus. Their aromatic oils have made them popular as a natural breath freshener for generations. Some people even report improved mood or a greater sense of well-being when using cloves regularly. Not bad for something sitting quietly in a spice jar. The simplest method is also the oldest. Chew one whole clove slowly, once per day. Some people grind cloves into smoothies. Others add them to tea. Clove oil is sometimes used externally around joints or areas of discomfort. It has also traditionally been used around the mouth for temporary tooth discomfort. Because clove oil is concentrated, it should always be used carefully. And as always, more is not always better. Here's the detail that surprised us most after reading through the research. This tiny spice, sitting in almost every kitchen cabinet, contains more antioxidant activity per gram than blueberries, a fruit that built an entire reputation around that idea. And that's before you include the pain support, inflammation research, digestive benefits, blood sugar effects, and biological mechanisms scientists are still working to fully understand. Sometimes the most interesting discoveries aren't hidden inside expensive supplements. They're already sitting on your kitchen shelf. If you enjoy evidence-based health content like this, consider subscribing. Every week, we explore the science behind foods, nutrients, and habits that shape your health. Because sometimes the biggest surprises come from the smallest things.